preparing to live stream. And there we are. Hello, ladies. I am so thrilled to have you here with us tonight, and I am so glad to have Irene back with us to continue our conversation on getting real about sex. Hi, Irene.
Hey, hi, everyone. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So we've got about 30 minutes. We figured maybe a little less, a little more, but we wanted to, I wanted to just jump in because there is so much that's in this topic that I just want to get to, and I'm sure everybody is wanting to hear about also. So one of the things I did want to kind of bring back into the conversation to begin with, if we could, Irene, was last time we talked, you had made the comment that your sexual relationship starts when you first meet. And that to me was just like, wow. So can you say more about that? And
yeah, that's such an important topic because we set the bar on how we want to be treated from the first interaction with another being.
mm-hmm.
And the reason why I said that we start our sexual relationship with a first date is we show our potential partners or future partners that we know, not so much that we know what we want, but we're able to ask for what we want.
And that doesn't mean that you're actually having sex with them. It's in other ways.
Exactly. It's in other ways. So way before you're having sex, literally with the first conversation or the first time that you meet each other, you're setting the expectations on how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And that absolutely translates into the bedroom and into your sex life. So that's whether you're asking for what you want, whether you're setting boundaries. This is how I want to be treated, and this is not okay. It's really also about focusing on how you are feeling within you, rather than focusing on what's your partner experiencing or wanting to please them. And right. That then sets the tone and the bar for your sexual relationship. If you're focusing on, wow, this feels really good to me, that's also how you will act in the bedroom. And that sets up your relationship to be fulfilling rather than catering to your partner, setting yourself up for it to be a disappointing relationship.
Yes. And that can be so hard for some of us to do that because women are such natural pleasers. And so many women that I talk to, that's hard in general, just to say what they want. But then you throw in the shyness around sex sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And here's also where it becomes important is when we are asking for what we want and we're receiving that, we're in our feminine. And we allow the man, if your partner is a man, to be in his masculine. And it could be in a same-sex relationship too. If you're predominantly on the feminine end of the spectrum energetically and your partner is on the masculine, it allows them to be in their masculine. Now, if you're pleasing the other person and doing everything for them, it actually puts the woman in the masculine and it puts her in the doer part. And that affects what happens in the bedroom because polarity is so important in the field of sexual attraction, that sexual tension, that wanting to be with each other. And when we change that polarity, when we change those poles, literally like where the attraction's coming from, you also jeopardize the satisfaction that happens in the bedroom and the kind of things that turn us on, such as being pleased or being taken care of or being on the receiving end.
I think that's so important. I think that's what you said, and that part about receiving, that I think it's so important that women understand that men want to take care of us. They want to provide for us. So much of the time they they want to please you out of the bedroom. They want to please you in the bedroom. If they don't, well, then you might want to move on. But, you know, to get that part that we have a tendency and a pull to adapt and to please, but maybe we need to manage that a little bit, fight that tendency a little bit.
Yeah. And underneath the wanting to please, so there's the natural wanting to please and wanting to nurture the other person or be good to the other person. But that can also be skewed by this idea that I'm not enough if I don't do a lot to my partner. I'm not enough if I'm not taking care of him. I'm not enough if I'm not pleasing him or he doesn't feel pleased with me. And that comes from a deep insecurity of not enoughness and feeling like you don't deserve to receive. And there's a lot of self-care and self-love that has to go this way inward for all of us women to be able to be in that place where we trust that we're enough and that we don't have to do more. We don't have to be pleasing, take care of our man, that we're enough as is. And
then could we talk about that? It was just kind of flashed in my mind. Could we talk about trust a little bit and how that plays into sex and when you should have sex?
This is also such an important topic because trust is earned. Trust comes from repeated action from the other person that gives you a signal that they show up, they can be trusted. And when it comes to sex, I think we talked about this a little bit in the previous recording, that it's not an issue necessarily of morality, of waiting until you have, waiting a certain period until you have sex. It's a matter of seeing if, if your partner's trustworthy, if they have shown up several times in a trustworthy manner, if they have cared for you when you showed up vulnerably, when it's not only that you got physically naked, it's that you got emotionally naked and they supported you and they cared for you and they showed up. If this person is able to take responsibility for their actions, if they do something hurtful or something that jeopardizes the relationship, does this person show in a caring way? Are they compassionate or are they critical? And so when we do have sex, it's not just about taking our clothes off the way we talked about just before the recording started, but it's about opening up emotionally and seeing, will my partner be there?
Yes.
If I open my heart as well as my body, will my partner be there, or will they dismiss me or walk out or do something like that? So that trust is earned, and that trust it takes time, and it takes, I teach my clients to actually initiate difficult, intimate conversations before you have sex, because that's a way to test, is my partner going to be there?
Yes.
Can they face difficult situations? Because invariably, sex is not, it's fun and it's light and it's carefree, but at some point you're going to hit some periods where it's crunchy and uncomfortable, and you need to face some difficult issues, and that's when you get to see the other person.
Right. And you had to me, it's one of the hardest things one of my biggest lessons was really learning the responsibility that I had in taking really what it meant to take care of myself, in making sure that trust was there, that I didn't realize that I had been neglecting or not owning. Yeah. And this, like you said, if they're not showing up in those ways, if they haven't earned it, and one of the things you had touched on in the last recording was about the bonding, that, okay, so now I'm going to be bonded to them because of I always want to say Oxycontin. That's also addictive.
Yes.
But I'm going to be bonded to them because of the oxytocin. And it's going to be that much harder to move away from them. am I ready for that? So really taking those responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a lot of responsibility that has to come from us as women.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And that responsibility is about being really, really awake and sober. And I mean that literally, because of the chemistry. The chemical cocktail with oxytocin is so strong that it does put us under the influence. So staying sober and awake and paying attention to these signs. Because here's the thing with pretty much all of my clients, when we look at their sexual history, and I work with mostly women in a relationship, but also single women. And when we look at their sexual history and their relationship history, you can pinpoint to first, second, third date, the beginnings, the seeds of the issues that surface later on. Mm-hmm. And the key is to stay awake enough to pay attention and to really take those signals seriously. That when we start being physical, and it can even happen, as you start kissing and cuddling, you start the physical, the chemical cocktail again.
Right.
It's that we have to stay awake and not lie to ourselves. I love how you put this when we were connecting before the call as well, is that we lie to ourselves and we betray ourselves when we get into that. And then it starts to not look so bad. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's just because this, and we start to make excuses. And so
I know he's not good for me, but I love him. Or why can't I stop seeing him? And been done all of those things.
Yeah. And for a lot of women, and I've been in that situation too, if the sex is really good, yes, then you start dismissing the problems in other areas. Yes. Yeah, well, he drinks a little bit, a lot, but he's so amazing in bed. Or, he's
such a nice guy.
He's such a nice guy. And so we start ignoring those things. And again, I want to repeat, it's so important to stay awake and sober around the signals.
It is, because if most of us, I think if we really stop and look back, we can see it. And it really is powerful. It really, really is powerful. And the thing is when you do that, and I am getting, so I really think too, that when you prolong becoming sexual, you really get to see who they are, mm-hmm, and do some of these other things and have some of these other hard conversations. Because if you're in it for a relationship, if you're in it for casual, go have fun, mm-hmm, be safe, be smart, but go have fun. Yeah. But if you're in it for a relationship, really taking the time to see who they are, like you said, while you're still sober and awake, that are they who you want before you get into that? You get too far in and it's hard to you get caught in the riptide.
Yeah. And another thing that women get caught in when they have sex too early, and I see this with my clients a lot, is that, and I've experienced this as well in my life as too, is that many women will want more after sex. I was like, I want more connection. I want more, yes, of an emotional, yes, thing. And for men, mm-hmm, because the sex, I think I talked about this last time, the sex piece is, it's not, it can, but it doesn't have to be connected to their heart. So when a, yes, woman opens up sexually, she wants more, because she's like, oh, well, I opened up, I welcomed you here. Let's connect, let's go deeper. For the guy, it may not be the same. And right, so sets them up on this uneven place of she wants more, and he's pretty satisfied. He doesn't want to give more. He may, he may not. Yeah. And that creates a downward spiral for women, where they start thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Maybe he didn't want me. Maybe I'm too much for him in sex, or not good enough for him in sex. And so it's really important to see, back to this piece of cultivating trust over time and having your partner prove themselves, show themselves, is that they need to show you that they want to be there and they want to connect with you before you have sex, because they may not want to stick around after.
And maybe even would you even have a conversation about it with them of what this would mean to you, and are they on the same page? And
always,
because it's like, okay, if I have sex with you, now we're in a relationship. Are you ready for that?
Yeah. This is oh my God, you're touching on such an important topic, and something that I'm such a strong supporter, that all of this requires a conversation. We all have different meanings of what it is to have sex. For some people, it could be just fun. Mm-hmm. For other people, that's how they connect. Like they connect sexual. It's just like having a conversation. It's on the same level for them. Mm-hmm. For other people, when I open up sexually, it means I'm in love and I want to be in a relationship with you. For other people, it could be, when we have sex, it means that we're getting married and this is forever. And you need to know where you are on that spectrum, and you need to know where your partner is as well.
Yes.
So you go and tell them exactly. And excuse me.
You need a drink?
I think it just keeps coming back. And you need to set expectations as well. Like if I know, for me, if I do this means that. Can you honor that? Will you honor that? Are we on the same page? So that it's not something that you troubleshoot after the fact, is that it's something that you agree on and are in a position to choose to go forward or to say, no, thank you, this is not what I want, ahead of time before you launch into it. So conversations, super important. And again, when you have a conversation like this, it's about seeing if your partner will show up with you and for you in a difficult conversation.
So you keep coming back to that, and you keep coming back, and how he shows up. Can you trust him? So where does that go when it comes to compatibility? Is there some things in there about compatibility?
Huge, yeah. There's a huge connection there. So this is how should I start about compatibility? So I think sexual compatibility is misunderstood. Mm-hmm. To be honest. I think we think of it in a way that it's actually not. So when we think of sexual compatibility, we often think of that chemistry. Like I enjoy the person's body, I enjoy them. And it's something that we think of or that we experience in the beginning of a relationship. Mm-hmm. But that sexual hotness and that sexual chemistry, although that is really important, you want to be able to enjoy your partner's smell and their body. It's not everything. And that can actually pretty quickly go away if other elements are missing.
Ah, okay.
And what the other elements that we don't consider are, is this person showing up? Do they show up in difficult times? Because the heat of the first sexual encounters will die down.
Will diminish.
It will diminish. Mm-hmm. Part of it is the chemical cocktail. That comes with newness and excitement. And as you get to know someone, that diminishes. And then also that we get used to, if we do the same thing over and over, if we like what's happening, we can reach orgasm, we can have our partner reach orgasm, and we do the same thing over and over, it also becomes boring and stale. And so that chemistry can drop with that. Now, what creates growth in a sexual relationship is each person's ability to learn and grow and be curious and want to expand themselves. Huh. And that actually comes not so much on the, okay, let's try BDSM, or let's try this position or this toy. And that has some relevance, but mostly comes in the ability to grow and expand emotionally, to grow with each other, to face boredom, to face your partner saying, I don't want to do this, or I want to do something else, and feeling like, oh, that's really edgy for me. Being able to be with that discomfort, that's where the growth happens. And so, again, you may have that hotness, but it may drop, and you need that growth mindset, that ability to be with the discomfort and be curious and grow in light of it, is going to bring back that hotness.
So the being vulnerable and working through it and being received and held, and that's maybe more the woman talk, that then creates more intimacy and safety. And
Yeah.
You know, I found the other part, the diminishing thing, was because, oh my gosh, they were so hot. You had to have them. But then you just really didn't like them that much.
There is that too.
Yeah. You know, when you said it starts to diminish, because once you really got to know them and started to pay attention to them more, it's like, yeah.
That's the flip side, is that, oh, this partner is not that interesting, or they're not that curious, or they don't want to grow. I don't really like them. Mm-hmm. And that drops as well, because they're not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other piece of sexual compatibility is, what if there is, the chemistry is kind of low in the beginning? It's kind of tepid, like it's nice, but we're not that into each other.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily, or that does not necessarily mean that there is no sexual compatibility. It may be that one or both of you are really scared, that fear is in the mix.
Interesting.
So when we're scared, for example, of being too much, like being too wild, or maybe our desires are a little bit, left afield of the norm. Yeah. Then we will start to hold ourselves back. We're going to kind of, instead of being like this, we're just going to flatline. And if one or both partners are doing that, you're going to have totally tepid, like, oh, well, this is not that great sex.
Yeah.
And again, if you have those conversations, if you show up for each other and say, hey, what's going on? What's happening between us? And each person shows up, you can go super hot from there. So tepidness, again, not necessarily lack of compatibility. It could be that fear is in the picture.
What about when, I hear women say, there just wasn't any chemistry. I didn't feel any connection. Is that, you think, kind of the same thing?
That could be a third case of lack of polarity. So if there is no chemistry, I'll say like the guy, because we're talking to an audience of women, but the guy can be a really nice guy. He's nice. He wants to please you, but he's on the scale of people pleasing, nice guy. And that removes, that twists the polarity as well. And so when there's no polarity, it ends up that I'm talking to someone and they're really nice, but I don't feel anything, because we are in the same side, so to speak, of polarity. And
so if a woman is too masculine, could that also shut off the chemistry of her not being able to find someone she's attracted to?
Absolutely. So if the woman is too masculine, she's going to feel like buddies with a guy, and he's going to see her as her buddy. And if the guy is being too feminine, if he's like this stereotypical nice guy that's just like so soft and deferential, she's going to feel like she's talking to a girlfriend. And he may look good on paper, right? He may have all these good traits about him, and he may be genuinely a good man. But if he is not in his strong masculine, the woman won't feel attraction. So again, that doesn't mean that there is no sexual compatibility, but there is work to be done around working to make sure that you're on your aligned to your pole, and for him to do the same. So that can be adjusted and worked with. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean there is lack of sexual compatibility. However, with that said, if neither partner works on it and it stays the same, they won't have that. They won't have a sexual chemistry or sexual spark happening for them.
Well, I find that so many people, if it's not there like the first time, they don't move on to the second time.
Yeah. And that's wise. I always love this saying, and I say this to everyone, including myself, is you have to love the person that you're with right now. Don't look at a person and think, oh, maybe if I take them to this class or if I work with this coach, they're going to be something else and then they're going to be perfect.
Right? Or I've heard now that we could work on this polarity thing she talked about.
Right.
And poles. We're going to work on his pole.
We're going to fix him. Yes.
And we'll get compatible because he's a nice guy. I'm going to make this work.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Really love the person you're with. Decide if you want to be with the person that's sitting in front of you today, right now, in this moment.
As they are.
As they are.
Yes.
Of course, we all have capacity to change, and we do change over time, and there is potential to change, but it has to, you have to start from a place I love the person as is.
Yes. Can't be in love with their potential.
Yeah. And that's true the other way too, is a lot of women, they fear that I'm not good enough as I am. I should be something else. And you want to be with a man who treasures you and loves you as you are.
Absolutely, exactly as you are. Yeah. Yes.
And if a man is suggesting, oh, well, if you lose weight or if you do that, no, that's not going to work. And you have to, as a woman, remind yourself as well, I am perfect and lovable as I am today. That
was really brought out to me a week ago. We were in the Dominican Republic at a resort. And first of all, there were several weddings that went on there while we were there. But the thing that struck me during the day, but more so at night, later in the evening, watching couples of all shapes, all sizes, all races, together, whatever, and the interesting how the men treated their wives or the woman that was with them, of hugging them or patting their backside or, just different things like that. And it's like, wow, it really doesn't matter, because there were all shapes and sizes of everybody. And, it's really showing up authentically. And that's how you get that, is when you show up authentically. And to me, for women, that's when we quit working so hard, is when we just show up authentically. And they either like us that way or they don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a refocus from focusing on how we look or how we are showing up for the other person, to focusing on how do we feel and just being
yes.
who we are. And I love what you said, this stop doing so much work around this, because that also puts us in the masculine. Masculine is the working, feminine is the being, is the receptive. It's just what is.
Yes. And that doesn't mean that you don't wear makeup or fix your hair or whatever, but you do it for you, not to try to market yourself as a different package, right? You do it because you like it, because it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. And have it come from your own desire. Like, I want to wear this stuff, or I want to look this way, rather than trying to impress or
yes, thinking that you have to or should. Well, we've got a few minutes left, Irene. Is there anything that you have on your list that you're like, oh, I really wanted to talk about this? And if I could tell a single woman, that's going to be dating anything, it would be this.
Yeah. Actually, I just held a workshop on this, which is the topic of self-care and how it relates to sex. And awesome. It feels really appropriate to bring that up. And the answer to how it relates to sex is in every which way. I see so many women, and I've been in that situation when I was young and I was in a relationship and I got married. The thing that went by the wayside was self-care. And when I say self-care, it can include your mani and pedi and going out to lunch with girlfriends. But there is also this other piece of self-care about taking time and space for yourself in silence, or space to journal, or space to go for a walk and kind of get your thoughts together. It's relaxation time. So taking a bath, or going to a spa, getting a massage, doing something that's nurturing and nourishing for your body, but then also fills you up sensually.
Mm-hmm.
It's about
okay.
Yeah.
So what is it that does that for you?
So like I mentioned, bath time or getting massages is big. Buying yourself flowers. I know for me, it lifts my spirits when I see my favorite flowers are sunflowers, and they look like they're like these smiley faces. And it lights me up. It lights me up. It turns me on from the inside when I treat myself to the flowers that I love. It could be buying your favorite scents, and it could be something as simple as enjoying, treasuring your 10 minutes with your favorite cup of tea or coffee. Mm-hmm. And all of this is about feeding your sensuality. So this is the other self-care. This is the deeper self-care. So silence is one, quiet time for yourself. The sensual pleasures is another one. Movement is really key. So we move in very linear ways. We walk linearly. We even exercise linearly, right? Everything is very linear. And when I say movement, it's about the fluid movement. It's doing freeform dance. It's allowing your body to unwind. It's time with, meaningful time with girlfriends, not just shopping or over lunch, but having support and connection, being in that feminine space. So women's circles, women groups, nourishing your feminine by being around other women is really important. And I group things like asking for what you want and setting boundaries and having difficult conversations under self-care, because they're about honoring yourself. They're about taking care of yourself so that when you show up in the relationship, you are full. Literally, as a cup, you're not coming from this much and then having to share with your partner. You're coming from this much and actually overflowing. And
it does make a difference.
And part of this this addictive piece, when women will get physical with a partner in the beginning of the relationship, is often because they're actually coming on empty into the relationship.
Interesting.
So if you're not dating, or if you're, if you don't have regular, if you don't have regular touch in your life, that touch from a man is going to feel amazing and is going to feel intoxicating. If you're coming full, meaning like you get regular massages, you want touch, of course, but you're not coming starving.
You're not starving. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're not going to be as intoxicated. If you're coming from emptiness in terms of connection and being around other supportive people, that connection is going to feel intoxicating too in the beginning of a relationship. So it's really important to fill yourself up as you're getting into dating or as you're dating, and to also not let that go once you start a relationship. Because you don't want your partner to be the sole provider of that either, because that creates
very likely that's one of the things that attracted him to you.
That's true too. Yeah, exactly. And you want more of it. And the hungrier you are, the emptier you are, the more it's going to feel like I have to have him, regardless of all these things that the signals that are maybe showing, hey, maybe this is not such a great idea. So self-care, super important.
Great sense.
To relationships, but also to sex, because our libido, women's libido, and this is a longer conversation that I invite viewers, if you want to talk more, learn more about this, to contact me. The women's libido is responsive to sexy things. So we get literally turned on when we do sensual things. We get turned on when we are pleased, when we are delighted by things. And that is a big deal to be able to nourish your own sexuality, nourish your own libido. So it's not dependent whether the partner is there or not. The partner has a huge role, but it's important to nourish yourself from within. So that's what I wanted to say about self-care. What before you're dating, as you're dating, and then afterwards in the relationship.
So great information that always self-care is paramount. It's always something that should be top of mind for you, that's so important for us, that makes a difference in your relationship, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything, because like you said, then you're coming to the relationship full.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think women are, I think people that are full like that are so much more just energetically attractive also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And generous with their attention and time and energy. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're like light bulbs. They're lit up when,
mm-hmm.
when you walk into the room and you see that person, because you can tell energetically and physically they're lit up. They're turned on.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been fabulous. Great information. And how can people find you if they want to talk more about spicing up their sex life or taking care of their own libido, working that from the inside out, as you said?
Yeah.
How can they find you?
I do a lot of work on helping women prepare themselves for sexual intimacy if they're in the dating stages, or to increase it if they're in a relationship already. And you can find me on my website. It's irenefehr.com. You can email me from the website as well. And I'd love to offer a consultation where we can talk about what's going on for you, and you can get clarity about what is it that you want and what's in the way, so we can create an action plan for you. So I invite you to reach out to talk about this and ask me any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing this amazing information tonight, because I think you believe, like I do, that we want people to be happy. We want people to be successful in their relationships and have the information that they need to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Irene.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.